Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I look at the 1998 UD Choice card set. And UD Choice is the 1998 incarnation of Collector's Choice by Upper Deck. And to understand this particular set, I gotta do a brief review of the previous Collector's Choice sets. So in 1994, Upper Deck created Collector's Choice as a base brand, but not so much a base brand to go truly head-to-head with Fleer and Topps and Don Russ and Score. They wanted to create a card set that people would rip packs to collect cards with, because parallels were just on the scene. They technically started off in 1991, but the collecting craze started in 1992. And so by 1994, Upper Deck figured that they could have these card sets with just tons of parallels, and people would be ripping through packs trying to get the parallels. And Collector's Choice was a great opportunity to have a basic brand that was cheap, that people could collect cards like popcorn. And the 1994 model was entirely built around the parallels and not really much more. So the concept of having a card set that had basically no inserts but all parallels, it needed some fine tuning. So in 1995, they took that model and they refined the card design so it looked better, and they added more inserts, but it still wasn't quite working. And so by the Series 2 for football, where football didn't have a Series 2, but in 1995 they made an update set, which was the equivalent of Series 2, they were already starting to evolve the card set into being more focused on kids. They hadn't done that before because in 1994 they had fun packs, so they didn't need to have a card set for kids. But by 1995, that made more sense. So Collector's Choice started to shift over into the space of kids, and in 96, that's really where the card set the design was intended. They got away from parallels, so in 1996, parallels just wasn't a concern, but lots of inserts and big, bright, flashy cards. And 1997 was pretty much more the same, but they evolved the inserts so that the inserts became more chase cards in a different way than we'd had before. How well did this work? Well, after 4 years, they had to completely rebuild the model. That means that it just wasn't quite working the way the Upper Deck wanted. And that's too bad. So in 1998, they completely rebuilt the model so that instead of being Collector's Choice, now it was called UD Choice. Really exciting, fun new name, they thought, and a whole new logo. So this was a card set that was truly being rebranded across the board. And they couldn't miss out on 1998 because that was the year for football cards, because Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf, it was all about those two players. You had to be in on that market. It was going to be a feeding frenzy. And so this was the year to remodel this whole design and start off on a new foot in a new phase of Upper Deck's base level. So much so that they even did preview cards that weren't just like a little 5 or 6 card set that was sent out to dealers. They actually did packs of cards for a mini set. Collector's Edge did a similar thing for 1998, but for Collector's Choice, for UD Choice now in 1998, they did packs of cards that were recreations of cards from the set. It was a skip number, truncated set of random cards, and they're all the exact same design as the main cards that would be released, except right at the top they have the word preview in gold foil. That's the only difference between the cards. Otherwise, it is, again, a skip number set, so it's not like they had an easy way to see how many cards were in the set, and they were released in packs. There you go. But when they finally got around to this brand new, fresh phase of Collector's Choice with the UD Choice set, the cards were kind of an homage to all 4 sets, kind of a hodgepodge of all 4. The white border of the first set is what defined the outside of each card, but they had almost an Uno card type of a design in it, with some of the bright colors that we'd seen from the 96 and 97 set right down at the bottom for a big team color for the band where you see the player name. And they did a good job of bringing in really tight shots of the player. So here they were rebranding, trying to get a whole new chapter going, and they were doing a great job of trying to make sure that the images were pulling you in. So these cards would be very memorable. And again, this was an important year for that to happen. So excellent. But you might notice there's something missing on the card. Actually, you absolutely would not notice it because it just you tune it out. There's no hologram on the back of these cards. I mean, on the preview card you can understand, but here in the main card set, these veteran cards, they don't have a hologram on the card back. It's crazy. And the reason it's crazy is that Upper Deck put these on all of their cards. Even their comic ball cards had holograms on the back, but here in 1998 with UD Choice, they don't have holograms on the back. Really interesting. Now, the card set was built around parallels. They were getting back into that phase. So that was coming in, and that was going to be a big part of what made this card set a card set to pursue. And the parallels are almost identical. The first parallel is reserve choice cards. And this is a card with a completely clear holofoil surface where when you move the card right, the words reserve choice, which are just run all across the card back or over the background of the card, they just make the whole card kind of sparkle. Tough to read these cards, but something that's interesting about this is it covers the entire background, so the player is not covered in the effect. But anything in the foreground is also not affected by this effect. So on the particular card we're looking at here, Steve Atwater, there's this big patch down at the bottom with no effect on it because that's the foreground. So it can look like it's some weird effect if the effect is blocked behind something that's not the main player. So just something I kind of ran into while doing this and it threw me off, but at any rate. But here's something interesting. Now the hologram is back on. So they put the hologram on the important cards, but not the basic cards. Now, I did say that there were two parallels. So we have the reserve choice cards, which were, basically, they were kind of like the silver version that we'd seen in 94 and 95. Their gold version equivalent is their prime choice, and prime choice has, well, it's the exact same effect. It's just that the term reserve is replaced by prime. That's it. Oh yeah, and on the card back, these are all individually serial numbered out of 100. So there's that too. And that was the design for the set. So all the cards in the set have all of these parallels. But not all of the cards were done like this. So most of the cards were done with the white border, or most of the veteran cards were done with the white border around the outside. But they wanted to really kind of enrich this card set. They wanted to make the card set a little bit more energetic. And so for the stars in the set, they did those cards where they did them borderless. And this made these cards really stand out. Now, like I said, they were doing a good job of selecting images. And that really helped all of these borderless cards to work really well. But on top of that, when you intermix these within a set of cards that all have the white border, these cards that don't have the border are just so much stronger. But I hope that we can all agree that they should have just done the whole set borderless, because these cards really do look impressive without the borders. Regardless, that's the way that the veteran cards are. Most of them have a white border, some of them do not, and the ones that do not are very distinct, but they are intermixed within, and they are not parallels. And so that's the model of the set, but then they do have some subsets. And the first subset, or really the only real true subset, was a carryover from 1997, or more correctly, it was a cashing in on the previous year. Because in 1997, like I said, that was a set that was more designed for kids. And one of the features of it was that they had these cards that were opportunities for kids to draw a card on it, and then they would make that card in their next year's set, so the 98 set. So the card itself was a completely solid white surface with just the collector's choice logo on the card. The card back was all about, where you send it in and all that information. So for 1998, now they had the winners of their contest, and so they had an entire subset of kid-drawn cards. And these are not recreated from the design like they'd done in Fleer. In this case, they literally did the art that each one of these kids created. So these cards, it's pretty fair to say that they're not the most polished looking cards, But man, if you were one of these kids, you actually got a football card that was made with your art on it. Really, really cool. But I do wish they'd done more in terms of subsets. Now, they did do their checklist with players on the front, checklist on the back, so they did that once again. But then that was about it, except for the fact that the rookies were done like subsets. So in Series 1, because this was a 2-series release, in Series 1, the rookies are all done with a very blocky design, and they show up in their college uniforms. So this was early in the print run. And it was, obviously the big stars. That was who was showing up in this card set. And then in Series 2, they did another rookie set, which included virtually all of the players from the previous set, from Series 1. In Series 2, now they had it more of a portrait, well, not more of it. They did a portrait design for the cards where they have a portrait shot of the player. And then down at the bottom, they have a white band with some interesting text in it. And that's the way that the rookie cards showed up. So again, most of the rookies in Series 1 also had one of these Series 2 cards in a set called Domination. But these cards are interesting because, like I said, all of the cards in the card set have both the prime reserve or the prime choice and the reserve choice cards. Well, in this case, they also have another parallel. And that parallel is called Domination SE. And the card is only different because, well, the word domination is now in a platinum blue foil. Oh yeah, and then on the card back, these are all individually serial numbered out of 2000. So with Ryan Leaf here, you see that he's serial numbered 666, which is not a good indication for his career. So he might want to be careful with how his career progresses, because it looks like there might be things might not go too well for him. But regardless, that's the way they did the entire card set, and that's literally everything from the card set. Some more checklists at the end, and then we were done. So they did do a couple of inserts. That was it. They did just a couple of inserts. And the first insert is their stand-ups. And stand-ups is something they'd already done before. It's kind of like cardboard bobbleheads. It's kind of the way to think about it. It is a card with all of these punch-out components, and when you punch them out and assemble them, then you get what essentially is a bobblehead or a little statue, cardboard flat statue that has three-dimensionality to it. These cards are notorious for falling apart, so if you want to keep them as cards preserved, you got to be extremely delicate with them. So unfortunately, that's just the nature of it. But the other insert set was one that was split between Series 1 and Series 2 called StarQuest. Now, StarQuest was something they'd already done in the 1997 release, but here in 1998, these cards were approached in a different way. So instead of being tiered, it is a 30-card set, but they have 3 different parallels. So there are 4 different versions of every single one of the cards. The basic card is a platinum blue foil over the front of the card with a cool effect for the foil layout behind the player. And yeah, that's the design of the card. But I will note, these are the Series 1 cards, and these are just 30 cards of veterans. They also did the same thing in Series 2 with a dual-sided card. So most of the players in Series 1 now had a rookie on the back of every Series 2 card. The platinum blue was replaced by a dark blue foil, and they did add a couple of veterans to replace the veterans they didn't use from the previous set. And so in this case, it's a veteran on the front, rookie on the back, across the entire card set, so 30 more cards. So that means there are 60 unique cards in the set, and a lot of players have 2 cards. But the big thing, like I said, is about the parallels. And the first parallel they have is green. So this is a basic parallel, easy card set, relatively easy card set to put together. Bright green color, cards look really cool. Then they have red, and red's a lot harder to get. So the red parallel is, as you would imagine, just a harder version of the green and of the blue. So those are the blue, green, and red are the 3 main parallels for the set. But if you're really lucky, you may run into one of the gold parallels. And the gold parallels for these cards are gold foil, what a shocker, but these are all serial numbered out of 100. So like the reserve choice in the main set, they're numbered out of 100, but unlike the reserve choice cards in the set, which are somewhat easy to get because there are so many cards that are numbered out of 100, here there are only 60 cards that are numbered out of 100, and this is one of those card sets a lot of people look for, so these cards can be very, very difficult to get at a reasonable price. In fact, I'm doing this video almost a year after I wanted to do it because of waiting to get one of these cards. So yeah, it's not like they don't come up very often, but there's a lot of competition to get these cards. So they are quite difficult to pull off. And if you're trying to complete all four parallels of this card set, it's going to take you a long time. But there is one other thing to mention about this, which is that in 1998, there were blister packs being sold with a card and a pack. So you would get one or two cards, or you would get one or two packs, and then there was an oversized card for the accompanied them. And so UD Choice was one of these cases. So there's an oversized card of a number of cards in the set. I believe they're all the full bleed cards that are recreated, but there are these jumbo cards that were also available, and again, they were available in blister packs. That's how they came. And that was what they did for 1998 UD Choice. Now, unfortunately, it didn't quite earn its stripes, and so that meant that we did not have the luxury of having a 1999 Choice set of any sort. Collector's Choice, UD Choice didn't happen. They had to rethink it again, and so MVP took over. MVP and Victory were the sets that took over for this cheap packs that you just ripped through approach moving forward. So this was the end of the line for Choice, and you can see that they were really desperate in trying to reconfigure it to turn it into something that would be sustainable. In fact, MVP, while becoming a lot more stable, that had its own journey. It was a difficult one as well to really make work down the road. But that's what I've got for this look at this card set. So I really want to thank you guys for watching this video. Now, if you haven't seen the other videos leading up to this, which I've done as I've done them almost a year ago, definitely check those out so you can see where they got to with this and how Collector's Choice evolved over the years. Also, if you haven't subscribed, I do urge you to do so. And yeah, thank you very much for watching.